Ciao, Colin. Ciao, Bambini. Welcome back to Fortune's Fools, the Lenormand show that happens every 27 seconds.
Indeed, it does, and they're getting shorter every goddamn week.
Yeah, and we're in that strange interregnum between when our daylight savings has begun and when the UK one does. So you're still at a funny time for the next couple of weeks, and I think we might have missed a couple of people who may show up at the very end of the show.
The tail end, just when when we're getting into the meat of the matter, which is the song choice for the
Exactly.
Lenormand Disco.
What everyone clearly waits for. Now, how was your previous 27 seconds?
The 27 seconds were good. Worked, and tried to avoid the super cold that's going around just now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm just like that, guys. Everyone just please. Y'all can phone in sick. I cannot phone in sick. I need y'all to fuck off. People off. Get away from me. Sorry, Nana. Booshed. But yeah, it's been a busy week. But once again, I have been housebound, so it's been it's yeah, we're getting into that stage. We're getting into the end stages now of the project. So I'm just like chained to the rock, waiting for the bird seat to lever out. Like I'm loving it, but I'm like, we need to just fucking do this thing. What have you been up to? Well, you had a great week.
Well, yeah, speaking of let's fucking do this, this was, I mean, the book that comes along with the deck, I've mentioned before, is going to be my fortune telling book. And the idea, well, not the idea, I promise you, that this will be a book that is obviously the book of the cards, but is in fact, the goal of the book is that you can pick it up and read it and be able to read with literally any cards you find as a result. So playing cards and tarot and the rest of it. It's my fortune telling book that will also include the song choices, most importantly, to go with the cards. It'll actually just be 200 pages of a Spotify playlist. And so it had been bouncing around in my head of how I want to do that. And I just needed to take a few days off. And you can find the video in the Telegram chat, because otherwise, if you're not in it, you're only getting half the story. I took a few days off and went up to Hobart to what I think is the most beautiful suburb in Australia. It's a place called Battery Point, which is like old-timey colonial on a hill. It obviously gets its name from having gun batteries pointing out at the Derwent River for the many people who wish to invade Tasmania. Basically, it's just been the British who did it and then turned around and put guns up. No one else so far. Anyway, that was really fun. So I was in this 19th century. It was quite haunted too. Like it's an old like police station with a little bit of a lockup that had become an Airbnb. So it had a lot of the motifs I think I was looking for, but most importantly, it had quiet and solitude away from everything else that I kind of have to do. And as you'd expect when you're kind of like deep in Lenormand project mode, I'm like, I'm going to do cards for different things. And the video I put up there, because it's like I said, it's a beautiful suburb on a hill, so it's really great for morning walks now that I'm a 45-year-old single mother, and just strolling around in the morning. And the second morning I was there, I'm like, okay, I don't actually know the area down the hill that well. I might find, just to get my 45-year-old single mother thing going, I might find a nice cafe that I can be those women that sit at like an outdoor cafe table in their walking jacket and leggings, drinking a coffee. And so I'm going to take my credit card because we had the opposite experience of money and cash this week. And I didn't find anywhere, but like it's actually quite hilly. And for whatever reason, I think the jacket zip came down as I was walking up the hill. Anyway, I lost my credit card. But the thing was, if you look at the cards I had showing on the table in the video, it's clearly Crossroad. It looks like the suburb of Battery Point. There's a guy walking in the sunshine with a book. And the final card is mice. Fucking mice, which is, of course, the little loss. And so I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And it was only towards the end that I've spent the whole time working on the book. And I'm like, what is the card we're going to be talking about in 27 seconds time? Oh, shit. It's the book.
Indeed.
So it's another one for the book. And then, like, you know, seeing a cardiologist with the heart card and literally starting a book week. And that was not my intention. But yeah, it was pleasant.
Awesome. I'm glad the sinks are coming in hard and fast.
Yeah, I think the closer we get to the end, that's certainly going to be the case. But I'm yeah pretty into it. I'm excited for the book because it's well, this is the funnily enough, this is like the one of two parts of book writing that's actually fun because at the moment you're not really writing. You're laying stuff out. I use a piece of software called Scrivener, which is really good for that kind of stuff. And you're like, oh, this is going to be really exciting, and this will be a good chapter, and I'll put that there and this bit there. Then you do have to sit down and fucking do it, which isn't fun necessarily. But it's these first the first like 25 hours are really good, and so I'm excited. And and we've reached the part of the project where I have to start doing it. But also it didn't occur to me, which is dumb because I was surrounded by like Lenormand and tarot books, was it actually can't complete until you've completed the images because I need to be able to use them to demonstrate different spreads and layouts and things. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I can get as close as possible, but it's going to be a dual finish phrasing.
Horatio. It's well, I suppose the one of the I don't know if this was a planned aspect of the show is that you've kind of each week I don't know if that's the plan is like each week you've discussed a card and that's kind of in your head. You've laid the seed of what that card, what the discussion would be, or maybe pick and choose stories or whatever. So as like kind of it's whether it's intentional or not, it's kind of a genius way to kind of lay out the project.
Yeah,
or to, like because you're just like you're basically practicing for the production of the tarot deck, and it's kind of like, oh, I know, like, so I don't know if usually I guess the writing process is what the fuck, panic, but you've done like, what are we on now? 26 weeks of prep for this. So
well, we've also had a couple of weeks off, so it's actually 28, which is our age, so that's by design.
It may end up being, I'll say this now and it will be cursed words, it may end up being the most enjoyable process of writing for you that you've had, just because you've had like sort of different different stages of planning and stuff. I will be spending the winter months here becoming more and more psychotic as each week passes because it is just like everything we like it's the end stages of like for drawing and for any kind of like illustration or creation or whatever or visual art. The end stages are they're the most frantic, but they're the kind of like the sketches are a hot idea is fine, but when you get to the end stages of a project, that's kind of like you feel like a professional, like even like it doesn't matter how professional you've ever been, it doesn't matter what's on your CV, but the end stages of whatever project you're working on, you're like, oh, I'm a businesswoman now, like I'm doing like, because you're just like your mind is running at 100 miles an hour, and it's like winter time is a great time for it because there is truly fuck all else to do.
See, I thought you were going to go in a completely different direction, so you were going to descend into madness, and by the end of the project you will look like Sarah Paulson's bag lady from the first half of American Story, because it's like cold and you're like insane and there's pictures on the wall. So I get to finish the project in like increasing sunshine, and actually it's not out yet. I finished like Animistic in April, so God only knows, hopefully soon. But like writing the book in warmer weather, like that is definitely more fun. You're gonna get the Sarah Paulson bag lady fingerless gloves experience, I think.
Yeah, I also started that way because I was coming out of winter and a pandemic, and I was just like feral. I was like, "What's happening?" I was glad to be speaking to another human being. Like it was good times. But yeah, I can't wait to see how this turns out.
Well, before we get to it, we should look at some previous cards, and we are welcoming back to the main stage of Madame Lenormand's Drag Race, the Twink.
So there's a bit of a discussion.
I think so. We'll bring it up.
Because so if y'all can cast your minds back to early 2018, when did we start that? Was it the Blair era? What's happening? 1840. That was New Labour. the whole shtick was, it was like we were kind of toying with like black and
Black and
white,
red. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then like a pop color. And I was like, right, we need to go back and do that, because that was the where we left it was like a black and white. That isn't finished because I realized that I was like, this needs to be fully colored now.
Yeah.
So the discussion comes in: do we want it to be a black horse,
Well, it depends
or
how
like a dark
much.
brown?
It depends what. I'm going in a chestnut direction, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because it depends what Mary Louise is wearing, right? Because I actually think
Well, it's not a thing I want to redraw. Like that's the figure is redrawn for the bigger size, but now that it's a bigger size, I don't. It's a bit cartoony
yeah, exactly.
because I can squeeze more detail into it.
No,
So
cool.
it's not
Because
really.
the makeup is too like
Yeah. So I think I had to redo the figure
yeah.
and then color the horse. I gave the horse a proper tail instead of just a swish because I had more to play with. But other than that, I think that is more or less that's the what we had. You wanted a full-bodied horse, a voluptuous horse.
Yeah, with that
You wanted
ass.
the full thing in the image. Yeah, with that. So that still really works. We had the knife in the boot, which was fun because again, guys, you can all cast your minds back or just rewatch the first episode, where there was the whole story about the character with the crossing the oceans with a red boot and a knife concealed and all that kind of stuff. I don't know about the red boot once it's all colored, but I do
So
want to
that's
kind of
interesting
squeeze the
because
knife
I
in.
think if you're redrawing the figure, she can actually go, or they rather can actually go full Tory, and you can have like
Oh,
red
side
boots.
saddle.
Well, no, like red boots and red jacket and like brown riding crop. So the
Oh, I
boots would actually
see.
match, and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
kind of like what Tories wear on a hunt, right?
yeah.
So I think it kind of works in that sense. And then then you look at like, well, what horse coordinates best with this? Because I am leaning in a chestnut direction because at the moment this kind of obviously because it's not done, it looks almost like Black Beauty, right? Because it's like a horse
Yeah.
in the desert. And that's not quite. I like the landscape. I just kind of think maybe green and blue is a little better for. Although maybe not because it was the rider does arrive in the tower card, so maybe actually keeping it a little bit more arid. But in terms of the outfit, I think try brown like brown trousers and like a red riding jacket and see how she'll look like the Duchess
Yeah,
of
I'm into
Cambridge,
that.
but like, but I think
It's
that's kind of
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Already when I was so before I set myself, I was like, kind of umming and ahhing over it. And I think as it's just more of a realistic tail to the jacket,
Yeah.
or even so definitely like, and just make it more. So yeah, the funny thing, well, it's not really a funny or curious thing. Like the more space you have, the more detail you have. So when I literally just did. If anyone ever has played video games, when they do like or just a basic port of a game from one console to a more advanced console, that's what it felt like. It didn't feel like it was done. So it'll be interesting to kind of get them updated for the new cinematic universe that we've developed since.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Those were the days. Let me tell you, like, oh, a pop of color, I'll be fucking fine, and now we're like, no, full color, fucking everything, love it. But then that doesn't like I think the reason we left behind the black and white was just because color is part of the storytelling
Yeah. It
of
just wouldn't
generally
have.
a fortune telling.
Yeah. 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 It wouldn't have. We hit some cards where, like the ship, it just didn't work.
Yeah,
So
that's
sort of
that's
very
right. That was the
quickly.
next card. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, we hit the next card and go, actually, this isn't gonna, this isn't gonna be able to work. So that was, but it's funny. Like, funnily enough, this is a way that book writing is in fact similar, because the way I write anyway is I literally write the introduction. Obviously, all the notes and stuff are done, and then I will fucking begin at chapter 1. Even it's all nonfiction, different for fiction. Obviously, you just do that anyway, and then end the goddamn book. But by the time I'm done with the book, I have to go back and do the first 20% again anyway, because it's shit.
Yeah, you're
compared
like
to where I
it's
finished.
changed. you've adapted to what you're doing, and you're just like, oh, that the voice here is different from the voice then.
Yeah.
And I think anyone that feels that they would like to embark on a career of any kind of creation of anything, don't do it. It's a bad idea. Just find something that you can make a lot of money doing, because it's as Sisyphean feat. Like, you are literally just going back and doing this until you've chiseled the fucker down to something that is you're proud to call your child.
Or at least not ashamed. That's the best you can do. But yeah, it's that part of the process is definitely the same, which is also I'm reorganizing the website so that the shamanic energy medicine sessions are more prominent, but it also means the cards are more prominent. And where, I need to tell you about like getting the print set. James is still going backwards and forwards with Hong Kong, because we're trying to work out if we can actually do test prints at all, or if we can just like book consignments. So he's chasing down that, because I think there's been a bit of confusion where we just actually need to test some of the cards. And even if it's a case of printing out like 52, like a playing card number of 4 cards, we'll see what we can do, but that's ongoing. But yeah, we're getting to the stage where there are enough images that demonstrates the range of the cinematic universe, the depth, the richness, the Weta workshopness of the cinematic universe.
Charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
Oh, we got anything coming up we can put that on?
The women card?
No. Like, I wish there was
the women card is just going to be RuPaul, guys. Heard it here first.
No, you know who it's going to be. It's my wife.
I know who it's going to be.
Yeah. But no, like, is there somewhere we can put, like, are there columns in a card coming up where we can have like the Roman numerals for C, U, and D?
Just in there. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. We'll find somewhere to put that. That might even be in the man card. Who fucking knows?
Just or just on like the strap of the jock strap of like the butt car, just like as a label.
Awesome. Yeah, so we'll be in a situation of being able to demonstrate the full range of the universe and so on. But that's cool. And speaking of demonstrating full things, Colin, show us your ring.
Oh God. Okay.
I'm glad we're
Didn't
back
even
to
shave this week.
All right, just going to wait for it to show up for you. And yeah, talk to us about your ring.
So this week I decided to show hole on me. It was, excuse me. It was like last week you literally said like a Swiss watch ad, and I was like, oh, okay, got it. I understand exactly what the vibe is we're looking at. And it was just a case of kind of, working in on that. I forgot how. So this is another card that's a bit like it took me back to the days of still life drawing in like high school, where you just took some random object and drew it. So I kind of enjoyed like doing the detail in the ring and everything. But yeah, it's fairly simple. And I think that there was discussion last week over whether or not it was going to be on a table or in a setting. And I think the setting is, I will say, to me, it feels a little simple. Well, so there'll be more. I think there'll be more to do, because it feels to me a little like, not that the ring is fine. There's just like a plainness. Yeah. Or a coolness, maybe. I don't know what it is.
So a couple of things. Yeah.
Etching on that.
Yeah. So a couple of things. The banks along the Urubamba are quite green. So if you actually look at the sketch card where it's darker along the banks rather than the hills, they can go in a green direction. The other thing is, I know you have a gaping lopsided hole in the first one, but I actually think the angle of the hole is easier entry. in the first, like it almost looks like the ring is kind of like sliding down the rock.
It's off.
Yeah. There's something off about your ring.
The second one, the one in the right.
So, but if you look at the sketch, that is because it's a sketch. like you can tell if you look down on that, that would be a lopsided gaping hole. So there's somewhere in between the two of them. Like I actually think the ring needs to be reset to kind of look more like it does in the sketch. Does that make sense? Like it actually looks like it's sliding
just
down
more of
there.
more of a like more of a loop shape that's visible.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. That is literally just a process of shaving the hole down, if you will, so that there's more visible, and I can move it up the stone just to kind of so that it isn't kind of like falling off into the like it's the gem from Titanic. It's falling off into the ocean. But yeah, that's cool. If you moved it up, got it and increased the space and like in the middle, then it would look more like the sketch, but also it would look more like it's peering away. I kind of like what it did feel like an eye at one point, so I was getting into that kind of Lord of the Rings vibe with it, where I was like, oh, I feel like this fucker is like staring at me or staring off into the water or something. Yeah, but yeah, that's those are all fairly simple. The green banks, that actually works out better because I felt that it was a bit too that maybe would affect how, like I was just looking at it and I was like, well, all the elements are kind of simple and kind of bland, so adding green to it would be probably a good solve.
And a couple of things, because you could also put, as Nathan's talking about, maybe something for scale. If you have green banks, you can actually put like trees or something, like to give a sort of in the mid distance something going on there, because he's talking about maybe ferns for scale. I think the fern would be too big, but if you so there's a couple of things that can kind of bring scale into it as well. But
that's like there's a cloud there, so I could just take away like the mist and turn it into like a little sort of tree line or something like that.
Something like that. I don't hate that cloud though. That's the thing. So see how, but I think there's a case can be made like, the scale thing's a bit of a challenge. I don't necessarily mind a large ring. Easy to find in the dark, but it's I think once it's sitting on the rock correctly, it might actually solve itself, because it does.
Yeah, that's right. Because I think
and
when we were chatting, I did say that it might be just about like just slightly sort of overlap the inset. So maybe if I bring it up, then it's more central as well. So that does work quite well.
Because I think it's got like that 80s ad, the 80s Rolex ad thing nailed. But yeah, I add some green to the banks and adjust your ring.
It's always the way. As we've come to learn that these are like good first passes, and now it's a good first pass at the ring.
Yes, but none of us are done with your ring yet. I think.
No, God help us all.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot more focus on your ring in the weeks to come. Probably not. Like that's a joke in the sense of this card is definitely heading in the right direction, if that makes sense. The only thing we did discuss privately during the week is because I'm actually listening to an audiobook about the making of the films, the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films at the moment, which I'm not sure I recommend. Like you have to be something of a super fan and they already know most of it already. But one of the things that came up is Saul Zaentz, who is the owner of the rights, one of the many challenges of getting into the screen over the decades, is quite litigious. However, the video that we see there is the intellectual property of New Line, so not his. But we were talking about how close do we dare get it to Elrond's ring, and will people know? And I'm not even sure if drawing a picture of a movie prop of something from a book is even a problem in the first place. But that was in the interest of, really giving your ring the deep treatment it deserves. it's a discussion worth having, because I really like it. I do think it's probably worth making your ring not look exactly like Hugo Weaving's.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what? It's a funny thing. Do you know what? Like, I was like, is this going to be like a copyright issue? And the only thing there's like, YouTube is a beautiful, content farm of things. And there's this lawyer that gave up corporate law just to do. She was like an IP person, and I was watching this thing about. She did this video about the state of all these like Marvel creators that are like now suing like Marvel because they all truly got absolutely fucked. They got like basically used and abused. And it just kind of, I was like, oh wait, this is that, like, it was just like, I was watching it passively and I was just like, oh, this is giving me some sort of ping of an alarm bell. Like, this is maybe something we need to look at. But, I would assume it's not high on the list of the Amazon lawyers or whoever it is, New Line fucking Cinema, because they're about to release presumably a horrible fucking TV show.
Horrible.
So
that has nothing to do with New Line, but yes, but maybe that's a good thing for us, right? That we actually want to distance ourselves from that cinematic universe in advance, because the CIA is about to ruin Middle Earth.
Oh Jesus, it's got its bad day.
Yeah. But like, it's just a question of messing with the design, because people are talking about is blue for sure the color? Yes, it absolutely. Like, it is still.
Well, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew that wasn't going to change, so I didn't bother asking you. It's like, that was fairly obvious from our chat last week that we need that that is like the element of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And plus it looks so cute. Like it's like a beautiful little blue eye. So we'll toss and turn it and see what happens.
Yeah. People are talking about I actually don't have a problem with it, but they seem to think that the color of the rock is too close to the ring, which I think is a little surprising, but yeah.
Maybe because I did think it's a very cool. So when we were talking about it last week, this was like just out the back behind the house card. So it's kind of, the light isn't really the same as there. So maybe that's something like maybe a warmer light or like some warmer tones. Something like that. Yeah. Just to kind of offset like that sort of icy blue kind of gem that might kind of work. But it feels like a good start. But I know when I'm bet, you know what I mean? Like, I know when I have to go back and kind of just sort of readjust her slightly.
Yeah, adjust the tuck.
Readjust her. I hardly know her.
I'm pretty happy with it though. I think it's definitely heading in the right direction. But I think you're hung up on the rock, guys. I don't think it looks. Just let the lighting happen. I don't think that's.
No. Much of an issue. Are you guys on this? Are you? It's geologists in the comments section.
Yeah. No, but I'm actually quite happy with it. I think, like, especially once we get some green on the other side of the river. Because the other thing we could do, although I like the blue matching it, is, and it might not work. It's actually quite difficult to do a muddy river. But actually, parts of the Urubamba are really blue, but other parts of it are obviously quite brown because of runoff from mountains and so on. But I'm pretty happy with the way the direction it's heading. So yeah, we look forward to seeing more of your ring.
I've not heard that in a long time, so I'm happy to hear it now.
Nice one. All right, well, this week is one of my favorite cards, which is the book, obviously, because we were talking about writing a book. And it's one of my favorite cards because it's one of the cards, there's a few of them, technically all of them, but in theory, there's a few cards that do double or triple duty in large spreads like tableaus. Key, book, house to some extent, in the sense of what's going on at home. But the book is, first of all, phenomenologically, it means book and reading and writing. So that's what the book is. But it is also, because it's closed, it's secrets and things that are hidden or unknown. So in a medical reading, it's actually an undiagnosed illness. But it's one of the cards that you look for in a tableau and look at the cards that are around it in particular, but in some sense in relation to it, to give you an indication of what you don't know about what's hidden from you in a particular situation. So it is a book, or it's a card of secrets. And so it does a lot. It's actually a really fun sort of card in that sense, but it's like learning and wisdom and reading and writing to begin with. It's also the card of secrets or things you don't know. And crucially, it's also to literally close a book. It's a card of ending. So there's a couple of cards, like if you're talking about a breakup and all the rest of it, like, are we breaking up? And you have a 7 card mirror or linear, and at the end of it is the book. It's like probably, because it is the closing of the book or the ending of a chapter. So it's a really, really fun card. Well, it's one of my favorites because it's like big Scorpio energy in the secrets of, of the card. And that is, that's kind of the inspiration. And also we're talking about this beforehand when we were like assessing who might win the song this week. And I still think I will, but we'll find out later. We have way more magic cards in this deck than are traditionally in a Lenormand. So we've given the Crossroads the Robert Johnson treatment. We've given the Snake the Ayahuasca Michelle Gomez treatment. But this is a card for jobbing fortune tellers, and probably people who watch this kind of stuff or listen to Rune Soup are going to be in the world of magic one way or the other. So I'm happy about that. And this is another opportunity, because we were talking about doing like a Hocus Pocus live watch for Halloween. So is this going to be the book from Hocus Pocus? No. It's like, there's a butt card. This is gay enough, right? But there are ways we can kind of move into that direction, and there are other magic books. So and when we get to it,
what? Sorry,
there is at least books. One more magic book, maybe.
Is it a book of shadows? Is it the one from Charmed? I don't know.
Those are the 2 books, the 2 genders of magic books.
The 2 magic books are a binary, guys. Just that's unfortunately true. I don't enjoy it, but that's the truth.
That's just science. Ask J.K. Rowling. All right.
Oh Jesus! Let's
So we shall jump to Cuntboard to continue talking about the book. So the greatest magical book of the 20th century is Carl Jung's Red Book, right? And that's the first image here. And I actually really like it as a book image anyway. Like this is a nice book for a book card, regardless. But that's the one that he wrote and painted all these incredible images in. That's the actual original. So this big red leather-bound thing. So heading back, don't mess with me, Cuntboard. Good. Now, there are the other... Okay, so maybe there are 3 genders, because there's the Necronomicon of magic books, right? So if we go to what I want, and this is the best I could find for a bazaar, and unsurprisingly, it's Alan Moore's Providence stuff, because the story many of you know of, well, I don't want to say fictional, the mythic story of the Necronomicon is the mad Arab Abdul al-Azrid was eaten and torn apart by beings from in between time and space in the bazaar one morning when he was shopping or just moving through the bazaar, like in front of a crowd. So we're not actually going to do that exactly, but if everyone casts their mind back to the Scythe card being in effectively Alexandria, what we're doing is it's going to be a book in a bazaar, and it's going to be Jung's Red Book. And it's going to be an oversized one. Like if you actually look at for large-sized books, there's sort of Hebrew holy texts and other things that are about sort of 7 feet tall. So this big, enormous book. So what we're going to have is a large book that's kind of tilted up on a small dais in front of a crowd with like a priest or an acolyte. Probably not. This is a fish monster from. Actually, I'll show you. I'll just jump back. From the Dark Grimoire. I went through a phase, which I'm not quite out of, but I went through a phase when I was 18 in 2012 or so. And Amazon Prime had just arrived in the UK, and I could get Los Scarabeo decks for like under £8, free delivery. So I just kept buying all these like Los Garabaos, because that's like a drink, right? That's a London drink if you're buying a glass of wine. And so I'm like, oh, sweet. Next day delivery, more or less. And so I have all these, wouldn't necessarily recommend them, playing card decks, tarot card decks. And this one is like an off-brand, so there's some wisdom in it for us, an off-brand like Lovecraft Cthulhu type thing. And this is a card from it. So this is a fish. I'm jump back to Cuntboard now. So this is like a fish monster acolyte. But most importantly, I really like his ensemble. He is serving demented cult realness. So it's Arabish cult, I guess. If we're looking at the kind of a few centuries ago, Baghdad or Alexandria Bazaar. So it's someone who looks kind of like this, standing up and sort of like to the right of the book as a crowd gathers in the bazaar. Same, so it's in the same corner of the cinematic universe as the Scythe card, right? And in fact, may have something to do with it. And I just quite like this one because there's Abdullah Lazred with his Necronomicon. That's just a really cool image. And there's old Seabag in the background. Yeah, so it's not in the same way. It's not Elrond's ring. It's not the Necronomicon. It is explicitly Carl Jung's Red Book, but it's Carl Jung's Red Book and that is the perfect book of wisdom and secrets and so on, and stuff that is occluded from you until you encounter it, because contained within the Red Book are stories of his encounters with the beings in the collective unconscious and his personal unconscious. So it is the ultimate magic book of the 20th century. It's obviously a very important book for me. And if we kind of situate it in a Lovecraft light or Lovecraft adjacent world, we cover off a lot of extra magical bases again, while still not straying too far, because that is about secrets and about wisdom and learning, because obviously the guy in front of the book presumably knows more about the book than the people in the bazaar. So it actually still contains that original meaning, but it just, it adds a little cinematic universe flair.
If you will. Yeah. So the book is closed, right? And our depiction.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's another cool one. It's one much like the Scythe card. It feels like a comic book cover, so I kind of enjoy.
Well, we cribbed from
it
one.
Feels very yeah. Well, by the way, Providence is if anyone is in the mood for like a great sort of autumn / Halloween-y like comic book, go read Providence by Alan Moore, because it is so good.
Definitely. Yeah. So it is. And it's funny because it's actually going to look, well, I don't know. It depends how zoomed out we want, but the verticality of the image I'm seeing in my head means that the actual inset, which we'll talk about in a moment, can overlap the book can overlap the inset at a sort of angle, depending on how we do it. Because I actually wouldn't mind it being, especially if the book is large, I actually wouldn't mind it being sort of like a medium wide shot, so that it's not, so that you don't just get the heads, kind of like what we do in the Scythe card. You don't just get the heads of the crowd watching. You actually get like a bit more crowd, like sort of torso and up. And the guy who's on the little dais, so that people can see, he's sort of, I wouldn't say small, but it sort of emphasizes the size of the book versus the size of the crowd.
Yeah, they'd have to be small just to get the size of the book.
Yeah, exactly.
And the good thing about that is that at a glance, it just reads like book. So
yes, yeah.
If you're just it reads like book still, but then if you peer a little closer, you get like the little details, which is cool.
So this is quite good in terms, I mean, obviously Abdullah Lazred being, well, it's not actually Abdullah Lazred, but like this is replaced, the bloody being eaten thing is replaced by the inset. But there's something about this layout that's quite good. Like see how we're getting like 2/3 of her and like half of him. Oh, they won't be fleeing in terror. They'll be facing the guy with the book. But this, in terms of, this is quite well framed, having Bazaar on either side, and that would work because it's a comic cover. That would work quite well for something that's approximately the same shape for us. So I think this is one to be quite inspired by. Yeah.
It makes me want to reread it. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah, it's same.
Um,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
definitely
cool.
more Providence weather for you guys. I need to, if I get the fucking time in Q4, I'm going to do a Lord of the Rings reread. I need something
Oh, fab.
like, well, I associate it with warmer weather, even though it gets quite cold in
Yeah, Lord of the
winter.
Rings is like, it feels like a spring
Yeah.
endeavor, doesn't it?
Well, it
Right?
begins in the
Like,
Shire.
because do books have like a season that you have to read them in?
Well,
I
I
don't,
believe so.
whether intentional or not.
Cool. So the Red Book certainly has a place in the Great Magic books. Cities of the Red Knight too. Yeah, perhaps too obscure. Yeah, it's not. We're dealing with like icons only. uh, the Red Book is absolutely what goes in this cinematic
And
universe.
we don't need any text on the book, just like maybe
That's
like
what's
an
so good about.
Arabish design.
No, literally make it look like the Red Book. Just make it look like a red leather-bound book that's about
Right.
6.5 feet tall. Yeah.
Oh, my dream man.
Red and 6.5 feet tall. Oh well, it's Scotland. You wait for summer, it'll happen. Yeah.
Jeez, yeah. Yeah, cool. It's that we're now in October, so it is like spooky season for normies. Which so we're getting like it's like a light theme. I enjoy that. And it would be nice. Like I enjoyed the scene of the scythe card. So it would be nice to like. And the scythe card was so. We've spoken about the size differences of the like what we were working with and canvases and stuff before we decided what we could print at that would be reproduced reasonably.
Yeah.
So the scythe card was one of the cards that I think it was. The scythe card might have been the last card before I shifted to a larger size canvas to work on.
Probably.
Possibly. Birds was the first one.
Yeah,
so,
that was scythe. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be nice to like revisit the sort of the milieu of all that and kind of
Yeah,
get
definitely.
back into the zone there because it's cool. It's a cool vibe. It's a cool kind of yeah. So that'll be nice. And dare I say, should we just say that the wild card then will be to sort of maybe have another run at the scythe card because that
probably
would
because
have
you
been,
may like
so that is that like literally those were writ. So those first 10 cards, maybe 11 cards, were drawn on like a 3-inch by 2-inch canvas. Like even digitally, that's like. I mean, I didn't realize I was a miniaturist, but here I am, a fucking miniaturist. So it would be good, I think, just to kind of because these all for my own satisfaction in the project, I need to like redo these just to have them at the level of what we're producing towards the end of the project. It's the first 20% of the book. Like, this is shit. We need to now go back and write in the voice that we are now writing with at the end of the book. Again, guys, if you ever want to have any kind of career in any kind of creative endeavor, don't become
it depends. Like, do you hate yourself? If so, welcome aboard.
Call centers. You know what happens in call centers? They just do coke all the time. Have fun, go nuts. We are not doing coke all the time, sadly.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea because there may actually be like when you find the bazaar for the book card, like it's a case can be made for it being in the same literally. Well, it would be the same bazaar, right? Like if that's sort of inspired by like not that Tahrir Square has a bazaar in it, but if it's inspired by the same kind of like uprising feel, they're going to be at least around like different angles of the same kind of courtyard thing. So they might be fun to work together in that sense.
I enjoy that many of the cards are having like that each card has like a twin almost, which is a new feature that we are adding to Lenormand. So
and it's going to be in the book.
Welcome, memory.
Yeah, because I was actually thinking
that's like it's a cool depth to it that has developed over. I think that just talking about it, drawing it. This is redrawing it, and like this is how it works. This is how one creates a deck.
Yeah, and that's the thing about a cinematic universe, which is a term I invented. That you, it like Tolkien would say, like you encounter the world. You don't create it, and that's what we're doing. And it's cool. It's an exciting part of the process. So tell your friends to buy some fucking decks. Because what
They
did we
are
just say about creative jobs?
yes. If they all survive the super cold, then they will be buying
That's
a
true.
fucking
Oh God.
deck.
Yeah. Can't talk about that on this platform.
No, you certainly
Anyway.
can. You can say it's bag, but you can't talk about anything else.
So
It's a big it's a big one of those.
yeah. But moving quickly on to insets. The inset for this one's kind of, I don't want to say self-explanatory, but it's the 10 of diamonds, which is maximum brilliance, maximum intelligence. So the diamonds work in that quick, sharp thinking way, and it's genuinely no surprise. Like the brainiac card, or the card of like wisdom as brilliance, not like deep, profound, slow, wizardly wisdom, but super smart, genius, brilliance. So it's not. There's nothing really additional to add about that. It is the card of maximum intelligence. So if you're looking for that, if you're looking for the genius when you're reading Fortune's Fool's Tableau, it'll be there, or it'll be on the author page of the book.
Indeed. Speaking of, as the mad Arab and the depiction, is this person mad, or is this just slightly miffed? Like,
Deranged.
what's the
like? No, it's so,
right.
like
fully fucking over it.
well, I think he's. So in my head, he knows more. Well, he doesn't know as much as he thinks he knows, which is the case for clergy in general. Like, so he has this book of profound wisdom in front of him, and he almost like presumes to tell the crowd about it. And so there's like there's a vanity or a vainglory in it. It'd be very difficult to come across in the to depict in the card. So probably not as, let's just quickly jump back to Cuntboard, probably not as malicious as, like, this guy looks quite malevolent. He's not having that bad a day. But I think you're more in the energy of not necessarily bumbling vicar, but because it's not a bad card, but someone, when you meet a member of the clergy who doesn't know as much about the book that he or she is supposed to. Dawn French, vicar.
Got it.
Yeah.
Fabulous. So there's a zeal.
French.
There's like great. Curly Warley in hand. So there's a zeal, but like it's kind of that. Yeah, got it. Like that. It's that kind of. Do you really get it? You're giving passion of the Christ, but you're not giving intellect of the Christ.
And that's cool. Kind of, yeah. And if that doesn't work, we can actually just make him smart, because it is the 10 of diamonds. But like
I think it's one of those things that we might be able to pull off, because, to quote a Disney witch, it is all about body language. So like that kind of thing can just be, because it's a relatively tiny figure. You're not seeing like the whites of the eyes, but like there could be like a body language, like a like that just like expresses that. So we can have fun with it and see what happens.
Very good.
Put some witch fingers on him. I don't know.
Pass.
Guys, this is the witch finger reference will only become stronger in the 4 weeks to come. That's all I'll say.
Witch finger season. Look, we've been talking about your ring. You can talk about your fingers. When else is it going to happen?
Listen, it's the body, the soul, the house of Gucci.
Yeah, so there's nothing much more to add to the inset. It's 10 of diamonds. It's peak brilliance. That's fairly simple. It is what it is. And we come to the songs.
And the book is a big bright red, right? Like she's maybe is she glowing? The book's a she,
well,
probably.
I wouldn't know, but what we could do is have kind of like a monolith sunlight ding at the top of it. So like the sun is kind of catching sort of along the top as a like not like
right. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah. Because that, like, again, you don't want the book is what's central, not someone telling you about a book. So that's why the guy actually has to be, bumbling isn't the right word, but because the sort of
Surplus to
secondary meaning
requirement.
is secret, it has to be that like he's actually not comprehending it. Like the book is the wisdom. So yeah. All right,
Nice.
song.
Song. Okay, I'll
We
go
were going to go
first
with Hocus
because
Pocus, but because it was going to be the right season, and it's just off by a couple of weeks. But again, however fun that is.
first of all, from the 1st of October, it is the season. That's the rule. I don't make it up, but I do enforce it strongly.
All right, so we can have Halloween passports from October 1 to November
Yes,
1. Yeah.
if you will. Double vax for Halloween.
um, I didn't go in that direction because it's not, again, the temptation to have the obvious song is very strong, but must be resisted. And as we were talking about beforehand, going through this project, you realize how limited. I remember this as a kid. I remember asking, because I would have been like 8 or 9. We were going on a road trip somewhere, listening to dad music, funnily enough. But I asked my parents, like, are there any songs that aren't about love? Because it suddenly occurred to me that popular music is extremely limited in the range of things it talks about. And not just popular music, but
I think it's just music. To be
Yeah.
like, sorry, musicians, but you need to fucking up the game here. Like, it's it's perceived as the most. I feel like because it's the most maybe. It's in terms of like making money, it's the most profit based, which means it's the best.
But it's also that troubadour
they all
tradition.
write about 4 fucking things. Like it's the seasons, it's fucking love, it's death. That's it. Like there isn't even a 4th. There you go.
Yeah. So trying to find songs about books, and I literally Googled songs about books. That was mostly educational stuff, like teaching children things. I'm like, yeah, that isn't exactly quite right. So we were going to go down like a fun gay route, speaking of rings, and left that alone for now. And so what did you go with?
I picked, if we could all cast our minds back even further than before this show started, to Madonna's album American Life, which, if anyone remembers, this is when Madonna went from 80s icon. Well, there was like a 5-year shift. She went from like 80s icon to like weird synth pop, which was I was kind of into it a lot.
When she went back to her
American,
she went back to her American accent. Like,
correct.
There was that hot minute beforehand where she was singing about Mini Coopers and working in a pub and trying to do a Guy Ritchie accent.
And then she said, "Fuck that shit." He was the original Brexit. She was like, "I can't do this anymore. No way." So there's a song in that album. The final song in that album is "Easy Ride," which is about and this is literally like 2000s. So this is like turn of the century. The towers are about to fall. This kind of crap. It's about our esoteric kind of search for wisdom and power, but like toil, but like framed in one of these gorgeous kind of synthetic electronic kind of ballads that the gays that work for her will not let her release as singles so that people can see that she actually still does do good music.
Excellent song.
And it's one of my favorite songs, I think.
Yeah,
definitely from Madonna, one of my faves. So Easy Ride, and it's all Kabbalah, and it's all that kind of stuff. Like there's nods and everything to it.
Hearing you explain it, you might have won this week, but I went in a similar but different direction. I went with "You Learn" by Alanis Morissette.
Oh, you bastard! Come on! I mean, Jesus Christ!
It's about learning.
You love you learn.
It's about like the school of life and learning and centering the idea of that. So whilst it wasn't, because after I Googled songs about books, and in the chat, Alan saying songs about books that aren't about Holy Bible Challenge Edition. Exactly. That's literally what came up. It was either educational songs or people singing about the Bible. And I'm going to take a hard pass on that. And I'm, okay,
we're gay, not like demonic.
Yeah. It was like songs about education. That's a bit, but like the songs about learning. And because I first went, First song that popped into my head was Wrong, but it was Whitney Houston. I learned from the best. And I'm like, no, good song,
Ooh.
but no. And then I'm like, oh shit, You Learn by Alanis Morissette, which, if I'm
That's
talking about my real age, I think was the first CD I ever bought. There you go.
that. Wow, Jesus Christ. Obviously, again, you went into a charity shop and like saw it just dusty sitting in there. But like 5 years ago.
Yeah, I bought a Sony Walkman
That's
for $5, and it came with Jagged Little Pill.
fabulous. That is a song I believe. I think Auntie Camellia would approve the meaning to the card for that one because it's fairly to the point. It
Yeah,
says what it is, and it is what it is, which is quite good. So we'll call it a truce this
I
week.
think it's a draw. I don't think anyone's going home this week. We're both safe.
Yay! Good because I did not learn the lyrics, so that's bad.
um, yeah, I actually watched the You Learn clip on YouTube, as you do. Like, I'm sure you go through the same process. Like, oh yeah, and then you watch it and you think, well, it's big '90s energy, but also stuff that probably wouldn't quite happen anymore. Like a white girl with very Bill Cosby show dreads and other stuff that sort of the times have moved on. Still absolutely slaps though. Still slaps.
She's as amazing. She's had a journey, I will say, and it's not really improved over time. So
No, it's she hit Jagged Little Pill and just stayed there.
she was like, she went a trip to Thailand and said, "This is where the fuck I am." Stayed there, and that's who she is now.
Alrighty, well, yeah. So what are you doing this week? You gonna play with your ring a little more, or is it?
I'm going to play with my ring a little more. We're going to continue on with the Raider because I feel like I've tapped in there and I'm like, I'm ready to kind of finish that one. We won't mention the house, which never made an appearance this week for reasons that I will simply not explain. Get this one, pap this book out.
So book Scythe Rider.
Raider, that's a good.
That's
that's
good.
a good. Yeah, we've got the heart card to kind of continue on at. And
Oh shit, we didn't do
niggles
that.
of
We had
things.
heart drafts before. We've done the song, but I forgot because actually, while everyone's still here, this is definitely worth talking about because I think we need to make a decision on whether we go down the indigestion route or the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet route. And I'm leaning towards Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet. What do you think?
Same. I've tried most of the week that is etched out for this has been spent thinking about how to make this effect work. And I don't know why it's such a block for me to make it work, but I just think it doesn't. There's too many elements going on for the ribcage effect, even though it's a really good idea. And I wanted it to work because the reference of like, I don't know, the Mormon saviors or whatever the reference image came from was like really cool. But it just isn't reading, and it isn't. There is no way that I can. I've tried layering it. An tried redrawing it. It just is not happening for me. And also, I was kind of sad to lose the white shirt. I think there's like a laddish innocence in this, like, you know, those. They go out on a night out and they found love and they're like dressed like they're kind of going for a job interview. So it loses a kind of youthful kind of silliness, I think, and joviality. I don't know.
Well,
So I don't
the
know.
chat is agreeing. Everyone's going down the Baz Luhrmann route. So
Yeah. So
think
what
we're heading in that
would we
direction.
do to make that more Baz? I sort of was looking at Sacred Heart, but we don't want like chains around the heart or anything. Like what do you think could add to
I
that?
think what's going to lift. Well, we can actually probably lighten the background, lighten the Rue des Abbesses, and make it. If we're going Baz, we might as well go Moulin Rouge. But like, might as well explicitly be Paris rather than just Paris Light. So there's something we could lighten it up there. The other thing that might make it that I quite like, although the angle's a bit wrong, is that sort of, let me just jump back to Maine, is kind of like the touching of the heart, like a Jesus, not with both hands because the angle isn't right, but I'm not sure. If you look at where the shoulder is, it might look a bit demented, like he's doing this instead. But that was the only other thing. Otherwise, I think it's just the original treatment needed to be at night so that the glowing made a bit more sense in the cinematic universe. Now it doesn't need to be. Now it needs to be. It can be a bit lighter, I think, is what I'm thinking. That's my addition. If you're going in a Baz direction, it does need to be lighter, or it needs to be a Hawaiian shirt.
Beautiful. Like dusk, not like daytime, surely, because
yeah, exactly. Dusk is
Paris doesn't exist during the day. That's not a thing.
Well, not for proper Parisians who leave for the summer.
No. Cool. Okay. So we're thinking try and maneuver a hand in there then.
Well, I don't think it needs it, but I do think it needs to be a little bit lighter, like a bit more of the jawline and the streetscape otherwise. I don't like. I think it's set. It's not that the card's too dark. It's set too late at night. I don't necessarily think it needs the hand. But I think you get if we're going down a Baz Luhrmann route, I think it needs to be more obviously Paris.
Right.
But
it could end up being an interesting week for the heart card. But that's cool. Like the issue was just trying to make that rib cage work, and it was a stop in the process because it was a puzzle that I simply was not able to kind of get past. But yeah, we can change it now that I don't have to consider that as part of the composition as well. So that could change up what we're really dealing with in terms of what we're looking at. But we'll suck it and see.
Yeah, very good. Phrasing. All right. Yeah, I'm glad we got to that. It would have been frustrating if we missed the heart. Cool. Have a play with that one as well. But yeah, the only thing I just think it needs to be set at dusk rather than sort of later in the evening, because the Paris component I think will complete. I think the heart on top of not on top of, but like as a cinematic universe overlay will make sense if it's Paris, and especially if it's Montmartre because there's like a Catholic element to it anyway. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I think it'll be good.
It could be a standout. We never know.
And Chantel's saying his neck with that collar looks really fetching. Yeah, the jawline looks like he looks hot. So that bit is
it's been just.
Yeah.
Can I just disclaim that it has been distracting to kind of look at, because I was like, oh, that is like a hot dude. Like that's, I was like, oh, okay. Grinder, what's happening? So that's when I know I've done a good job, when people are like, oh, that's a hot depiction of a male body.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's an excellent place to finish on. Phrasing.
I am not coming back next week.
I'll get one of the eliminated queens. It's fine.
Fuck.
Alrighty, well, guys in the chat, thanks very much for your input. This has been a good one. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff done, and people are thinking about blue on the. We'll talk about that in the Telegram. I'm not sure. I'm open to it, but I think the colors. I think the warmer colors kind of work for it. But yeah, thanks very much, everyone, and we will of course see you in the next one.